This is the Financially Simple Podcast, a show dedicated to destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner. And now, here's your host, pizza-loving, certified financial planner, Justin Goodbread.
Welcome to Financially Simple. I'm your host, Justin Goodbread, and today we're going to continue our dive into the subject of marketing. Now, as we've talked about here in the last little bit, we're on a series of growing the value of our business. And today I want to emphasize that particular value in marketing with the topic of today's episode titled branding, simple branding. As you know, I consider myself a weekend farmer. One of the animals that I have yet to purchase, I don't know if I will at some point or not, is a cow, like moo. I don't have a cow. We have goats, we have chickens, we have turkeys, we have all sorts of fun stuff. We have 3 kids that act like a cow sometimes, but we don't have a cow. I was in Idaho a couple weeks ago, and while I was in Idaho, I saw several cows. We actually took some guides out, did some backcountry things, and I noticed at the guide's bunkhouse, as they called it, there was a branding iron. And their particular brand had been scored or scorched into the wood over the bunkhouse. And I thought it was a cool looking brand. And we got to talking about branding and how cows can range in that particular parts of the country, free range. Sometimes they put 2 or 3 herds together. So we talked about how they brand cows so they can tell whose cow belongs to which herd or which farmer. Branding is in cattle. We see that. Branding is also in business. And when we think of branding, oftentimes we see it not even knowing what it is. So I want to close your mind's eye for a second. Don't close your eyes, please. You're probably driving like I typically am. Don't close your eyes. But I want you to think about this. As I describe these brands, I want to see if you can guess the company. So I'm going to describe the first brand. It's an apple that's silver with a bite out of it. And you're like, Justin, that's easy. It's Apple, like the Apple computer. Yeah. Apple being with a bite out of it kind of dilutes that Apple is the brand. That's an easy one. Let's get another one. How about a big giant red N as in Nancy? Did you guess Netflix? Aha. See, you're catching on to the game. What about a swoosh? Oh, of course, we know that's Nike, right? Or how about the big yellow M as in Mike? Yeah, that's the home of the McChicken sandwich. Or the Big Mac, or the French fries that you want to dip in their ice cream, knowing that none of it's good for you, but you know you like it. Come on now. I know you like it. What about the red Target? That's too easy, right? So that's branding. Let's think about it this way. I want you to think about these colors. What about something that is red, that is on the outside of a soft drink, that has a cursive name, but the color is red? Did you think Coke? Coca-Cola? What about the color brown? When you think about brown, you may be saying, what can brown do for you? Yeah, that's United Postal Service, UPS. See, branding is the recognition easily in our mind's eye of things like symbols or colors. Or how about this thing? Oreo, Nabisco. I know I can't sing, but that's Oreo. We even hear sounds. We hear, you've got mail. The startup of you've got mail. We automatically think of AOL. Well, those of us who are old like me. Nonetheless, branding is all these things. So what exactly is branding? Branding can be a name. So for example, Financially Simple. It's a name. It's a brand. Apple Computer, Netflix, Nike, Coca-Cola. All these are names. It can be a phrase. Something that I try to brand myself is life is hard. Life is good and life can be frustrating, but money doesn't have to be. Let's continue to make our lives at least financially simple. That's a phrase. Better than I deserve. Dave Ramsey. Better than I deserve. Branding can be a design. It can be the Mona Lisa. There was an interesting story on the Mona Lisa. You ought to look at how it became famous. I thought reading that this last week in a journal. I thought, man, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Branding can be a design. We already know it can be the symbols or colors like we've already talked about with Apple, Netflix, Nike, Target, UPS, etc. So we recognize these names, phrases, symbols, designs, but more importantly, it's a perception. See, as I described that French fries from McDonald's and that vanilla ice cream, you can almost taste it. You can almost taste it. You know what a cup of Starbucks coffee tastes like. You know it because it's a perception. We know when we see the brown truck pull into the driveway or leave us a package at our door that we have a box delivered. We know when we see the Netflix, we know we're fixing to watch a movie or show or something. So branding is all about public reception. It conveys a reputation and a set of standards. See, if I go to Apple, which I'm not an Apple guy, I'm sorry, I'm a Samsung guy. Y'all send me hate mail. Every time I say that, I get all sorts of fun Twitter announcements. So go ahead and shoot me a message on Twitter at Justin Goodbread and say, dude, get with the 21st century, buy an Apple phone. I got to buy a new one. I don't know. I'm just not an Apple guy. Maybe you say, Justin, just do it. Shoot me something out on Twitter at Justin Goodbread. Maybe I should put a poll out there. Should I buy an Apple or a Samsung? We'll see what happens. That'd be a fun little poll. Nonetheless, branding sets expectations. I know that if I had an Apple computer, I know what to expect. I know the interface. I know my Samsung. I know what to expect. I know the interface. If I go to McDonald's and ask for French fries in Knoxville, Tennessee, it's going to be the same taste as the French fries I received in Wyoming. We were somewhere in the middle of Wyoming, and I got a French fry from McDonald's. I didn't want anything else, just French fries. Yeah, just small fry. Didn't even get ice cream then, but I knew what to expect. I knew one time when I was in Malta, I wanted some French fries. Yeah, they didn't have McDonald's at that time that I could find. I was missing it. So I had some other person's French fries, and they weren't McDonald's French fries. I know that if I go to Chicago and get a pizza, it's going to be a deep dish slice of heaven. And I know if I go to New York, it's going to be a thin crust slice of heaven. And I know if I'm at the Little German Lady's restaurant here in Kingston, Tennessee, not too far from my house, it is going to be the best pizza you've ever had this side of heaven. Because I have expectations. I have the brands.
You are listening to Financially Simple, destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner.
So that leads me to be for our businesses, if we understand the value of branding, that we ought to brand our businesses, then how should we brand it? Well, there's 4 C's that I'm going to give you. 4 C's as in cat. The first one is branding must be consistent. We have to constantly place it anywhere and everywhere. We have to have consistency in branding, the delivery and the message. One of the things I often look at when we begin working with new clients is their branding when we get to the marketing aspect. And oftentimes I'll see that it's not consistent across multiple venues. The business card will look one way. The social media will look another. The collateral pieces will look another. Their website would typically be all out of whack. There's no consistency in delivery. And there's no consistency in message. I've seen it where some people's email addresses say Justin Goodbread at. I've seen it in the same company where they change it to JG at or J Goodbread at. There's no consistency in branding. See, branding, first of all, has to be consistent. So my challenge to you at this point is stop, take an inventory of your branding. Like, Justin, I don't have any branding. Yeah, you do. You have some branding. If nothing else, you could be the brand. I was thinking about that today. In branding. Oftentimes we say the company's a brand, but that's not always the case. See, Financially Simple, I'm branding myself, Justin Goodbread. You don't know many of the team members behind the scenes because they don't want to be known, most of them, but you don't know many of them. Now, I allude to them occasionally. You know, there's some other people like that. I like to listen to Gary V. I like Gary Vaynerchuk. I hope that one point in my life people will say JG. You know, they'll be known as JG. Or the artist formerly known as. I think you've arrived whenever people just know you by your first name. Hey, Justin. I think Justin Timberlake. No, come on now. So you can be consistent in your brand, and it may just be you. So you're a solopreneur and you're not worried about creating a brand for an organization. You're not out there trying to say, I'm going to grow Financially Simple. You say, I'm going to grow Fred Flintstone. Well, you can do that. Gary Vaynerchuk's one. Grant Cardone is another one. We've all heard of the Kardashians. I can't remember the girl's name from Duck Dynasty. My mind just went blank. Anyways, she's creating a brand for herself. If you look on Instagram, if you look on Facebook, look on Twitter, look on YouTube, everybody is creating brands for themselves. So your brand can be corporate or it can be individual, but it has to be consistent nonetheless. The second thing a brand has to be is it has to be clear. You have to understand what your brand is. Isn't it interesting that Apple uses an apple? Isn't it interesting that Netflix, which would be kind of hard to put into a picture format, they just use the letter N. Financially simple. I use financially simple. It's clear. It's simple. Brown, UPS. They put a brown box on a UPS truck. It's a brown truck. Super easy. Red, Target. It's not overly complicated, but it's got to be clear. Whenever people see financially simple, we got to understand that we're going to talk about finances very simple. That's the idea. So it has to be clear. The third C is concise. It shouldn't say that we're doing financially simple things and then all of a sudden we get in and we're talking about advanced quadratic equations. We shouldn't be trying to calculate the value of a business through an audio file. And I'm often told that sometimes I'm not simple. I try to, but it needs to be concise. It needs to be very simple. You notice that Apple is Apple and they have an Apple and Netflix is simply an N. You don't see a lot of these law firm type branding. I get amazed with law firms because they'll say Flintstone, Rubble, Jetson, like 75 names. It's like, really? Really? Why can't you just say East Tennessee Law Firm? Well, there's reasons for that, but nonetheless, it's got to be simple. It's got to be concise. You don't have to say that you're A1 Plumbing, the best in the Southeast. You don't have to do that. You can just say A1 Plumbing. And people get what it is. You can say, I've read something on the back of a plumbing truck one time. I always thought it was funny. It said, we're number one, the number two business. And they were a septic tank business. That was their tagline. It's simple. And I still remember it. Take it out of business for a second in politics. I'm amazed at the political scenes that we've seen the last 3-4 years. I'm speechless many times. One of the things I thought was most interesting was the ability for names to stick. So Little Marco, just brilliant marketing. And ultimately led to his election. Lying Ted, Crooked Hillary. I still can remember these things because they were concise. They were super easy name hooks. That's what branding's about. And they have to be continual. That's the 4th C of branding. See, branding is not just one location. It's not just social media. It's everywhere. It's continual. It's nonstop. If you're branding yourself every day when you get out of bed, the clothes you wear, the way you dress, the way you comb your hair. I was at a conference, at a financial conference of all things, and there was this kid. He's probably 18 years old. The guy didn't even shave yet. It was just interesting. He was branding himself in a way that I'm going, there is no way that I would trust you with any advice as it relates to my finances or much less my business. Now, he could have been the smartest guy since sliced bread. It could have well been. I spoke to him a little bit, and I don't think he was, but he was just interesting to watch the way he dressed himself and the way he presented himself. He was branding interestingly to me. Now, he wasn't trying to get my generation, a 39-year-old that acts like a 60-year-old. That's not what he was after. He was after trying to place himself in the young, trendy millennial of his particular country. But you're branding continually. On the sides of your vehicles, in your business cards, the way you communicate, the way you talk, the way you look, the way that you dress is continual. So branding must be continual. It never stops. When you say things on social media, you're branding. The way you speak in an open format, you're branding. I was in a networking mixer, and I saw this loud, obnoxious individual, and I was like, I would never do business with somebody like that. Now, this individual had drank way too much alcohol, but he was branding himself, and it was a turnoff to me. And I maybe could have used his service, but not now. So the 4 C's is that it has to be consistent, clear, concise, and continual in branding as your business. So how are you doing so far? Do you have a consistent brand? Is it clear? Is it concise? And are you branding continually? You're like, Justin, but where are we supposed to brand exactly? Well, branding occurs in a couple of different areas. Most commonly, you're going to say social media, like the Facebooks, right? Snapchat. Those are types of branding sites. It may also be through a podcast like we're doing here. It may be on a website. It could be through collateral pieces, things like business cards, stationery, letterhead, signs on the side of your vehicle, the nameplate on your business, the actual return address envelope whenever you mail out an order. Branding is everywhere. It also could be in your email, the way you put yourself in email replies. It could be in the e-commerce. And like I mentioned earlier, it's every single day. So my question to you at this point, are you branding properly? I'm going to throw one more thing at branding as we wrap this thing up. You're branding to your target market. Now, remember, we're in marketing. I dealt, first of all, with what is marketing. We dealt with a couple other things. But if you remember Frazzled Frank, I talked about Frazzled Frank, and you're like, Justin, that's me. Hey, if you're Frazzled Frank, I'm talking to you. My branding has to communicate to you. I'm trying to talk to and communicate and work with Frazzled Frank. So my branding, everything within my sphere of my life has to be correlated and has to be designed for Frazzled Frank. Whenever that time in life comes up and he's frazzled, or she is frustrated, Fanny is my lady's name that I use. If Fanny's frustrated and Frank is frazzled, then I want them to think financially simple. So that's branding. How are you doing? And with that, guys, I want you to check out the Financially Simple blog and give me a rating on my branding. We're actually redoing the blog right now. I'm supposed to have it done hopefully very soon. Give me a rating. Shoot me something on Facebook at Justin Goodbread Financially Simple, or shoot me on Instagram. Take a picture of it and shoot on Instagram and say, hey, dude, you're not branding properly, dude. Drink your own medicine. While you're on the blog, though, sign up for our newsletter. Our newsletter is rocking. I had like 3 replies this last couple of weeks from people who said, man, I love your newsletter. I saw somebody in person and said, Justin. I'm like, yeah, who are you? And they're like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry. You don't know me, but I know you. Let's get your newsletter. Dude, it is awesome. You helped me out with something. So check out the newsletter. You know, the podcast for me is fun. It's an opportunity for me to share some thoughts with you. If you like the podcast, do me a favor and share it with a friend. If you don't like the show, share it anyways. Like I say every week, life is hard, life is good, and life can be frustrating. Money doesn't have to be. Let's continue to make our lives at least financially simple. Hey, y'all go out and make it a great day.
You have been listening to the Financially Simple podcast. The information in this show is for informational purposes only. This show is not investment advice. Instead, seek help from a competent financial advisor. Justin Goodbread, CFP, is an investment advisor representative of Heritage Investors, a registered investment advisor.